Ladies and gentlemen, patch notes for Across the Spider-Verse have landed, and I dare say this is the best update of the year. This is looking like it could be the best update of the year, and I'm very hopeful that this remains the truth. So I know we go up and down with the game, and I know I've been really hard on the game, but you know what? There's a comment saying it's the darkest before the sunrise. That's what happened with Marvel Future Fight. We were getting really dark there after the anniversary, man. Guardians of the Galaxy update wasn't looking so good, and then boom, they're like, all right, we're gonna bring it back to you guys. We're gonna put more effort in, and I'm hopefully, I'm excited, and hopefully this is gonna be a theme for the rest of the year, where they're actually putting in that work and they're actually earning our trust and loyalty back. So let's check it out. Let's see what is waiting for us. So we got Spot as a brand new character. He will be available through the bio subscription for money, but he will also be available through the SpiderMan Across the Spider-Verse Update Celebration Event Token Shop. So not sure what that means. Some people are speculating it's the token shop that launches 2 weeks after the update. I kind of doubt it, even though it is worded, it's sort of worded that way, because 2 weeks after the update. Anyways, he will be free in some way, right? As long as you can get these event tokens, he will be free in some way. So that is the takeaway. He will be temporarily free or temporarily obtainable for tokens at 1 star, something like that, and otherwise he will be a premium character. Now Spot looks pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see how strong he can be as a transcended villain, how big his stats are. Speed types generally have very low stats, so that'll be something to watch for, especially because he also doesn't have a uniform. His leadership is pretty bad, but it's better than what we've seen. A lot of leaderships are just 6% dodge or just 6%, 12% crit rate. His passives are nice, 30% dodge and 30% ignore dodge. He's got 10% chain hit with 25% guaranteed dodge and skill damage bonus damage. So he's got quite a bit going for him defensively with the layers. He does have a counterattack ignore iframe skill. So big shout out to the devs. They figured out what that skill does. They started adding it to new characters. Wow, very exciting. We need way more characters that have this, because it makes them a much bigger threat for PvP in general. Okay, he's got a 35% heal with 60% penetration on that ability and accumulation. So this is a huge skill. This is going to hit mega hard, and this is really going to pop off for him when he does land it. He's got pretty short cooldown, 16 seconds or less on every skill. He's got a very nice 65% frenzy buff, which is crazy, with a barrier. Barrier is not bad for PvP, by the way, guys. It's not the worst. And then he's got invincibility and a 120 damage proc. So this dude is stacked to the teeth with buffs. He should be able to compete with uniformed tier 3 and transcended characters. So it should be pretty exciting to see what he can do, how he matches up to recent villains in the speed category like Squirrel Girl, Kraven, Green Goblin, Red Goblin, etc. So pretty nice for Spot. And then the new uniforms, we have Spider-Man Miles Morales. He gets 15% chain hit and 30% damage reduction from villains, which is nice. His ultimate ability does get some changes. It now features both burn and shock with a accumulation and penetration. His leadership has changed, so now instead of buffing Spider-Man, he buffs himself, thank God. So none of that bullshit anymore where he buffs the other Spider-Man but not himself, which is ridiculous. Now it's just him, which still makes way more sense than buffing someone else and not buffing yourself. I never understood that about a leadership. He gets 25% ignore dodge and even more damage reduction. He keeps his 120% increased damage to villains, which is oh so spicy. Unfortunately, he doesn't have iframe ignore on any of his skills. I was really hoping that he would, because I was guessing that there was a possibility that they make this uniform for PvP and his previous uniform can be used for PvE, but that doesn't seem to be the case. These both seem to be PvE oriented. He has a damage proc for 100% on Venom Shock. He's got a 45% Frenzy buff. He's got Web, Shock, Paralysis, Fracture. He's got a lot of ABX skills and ABL skills, although you don't really need speed types for that. He only has a 20% heal, which is interesting. So he may be the worst suited for PvP just because 20% is kind of low. But he may be insane for PvE. So we'll have to wait and see how that ends up shaking out, especially as a tier 4. He has a really cool tier 4 passive, though. We'll get to that. 2099 also looks pretty interesting. 20% chain hit, 20% damage reduction, and then also 20% increased damage to boss types. So a bit of a balance here between PvE and PvP. He retains his Lila decoy, or his Layla decoy, where when you hit him, he gets a barrier and he gets invisibility. So that's pretty nice. And when you pair that with his artifact, he could become a counter, to Adam Warlock potentially. 30% guaranteed dodge with a fat 40/40 on the skill damage bonus damage is really nice. Unfortunately, no iframe ignore. Only a 15% heal, so we'll have to wait and see. 60% frenzy buff, which is nice, and another 50% buff on his third skill, so a lot of attack buffs. He doesn't have a proc that he can pass, and his accumulation is only 0.4%. So we'll have to wait and see if this is a typo in the sense that it's 0.4, but it builds up to 1.2, because usually that's what it is. Like Thor's accumulation was 0.4 with Herald Thor, but as you held the skill, it went up to 0.8, and then it went up to 1.2. I'm not saying you have to hold Spider Mirage, but it might stack up to 1.2, because 0.4 is very, very low. I know it buffs his crit rate and his attack, but it's still very, very low for an accumulation buff in 2023. So we'll have to wait and see. He might need some buffs. You know, a 15% heal is low, and a 0.4% accumulation, if it doesn't stack, is low. But otherwise, he looks very good, and he looks super cool, guys. If you haven't seen the videos and stuff, he looks giga cool in his uniform. And then we've got SpiderWoman, definitely the best positioned for PvP here, I believe, of the bunch, besides maybe Spot. Her uniform effect now applies to all Spider Sense allies. So this is a uniform effect, keep in mind, guys, that will apply in all content, right? Whereas leaderships don't apply in Otherworld Battle, for example. Uniform effects and passives, tier 2 passives, 4-star passives, those do apply. So Wasp's passive applies, Wasp's uniform effect that gives you HP, right? All of those effects work. You know, Hela's uniform effect that increases damage to superheroes, all of those effects do work. So putting SpiderWoman on a team with a bunch of Spider-Verse characters and Chasm, you're going to get a bunch of buffs. So this is quite nice. Look at this. Allies with Spider Sense decrease the chain hit damage they receive by 30%. That's massive. Remember what that did for Agent Venom and Carnage in PvP. It's not an ability to be taken lightly. They also get 25% ignore dodge, which is nice, and then they increase their basic damage dealt to boss types by 35%, which means that she's a flexible support. She's not just a PvP support, she's also a PvE support, which is very, very nice because she has the leadership and agility tags, which are restrictions for World Boss Legend. So you will be able to use her, even though as a blast type, she doesn't line up with being a speed type, and as a female, she doesn't align with being a male, which, you know, besides Gwen, the rest of the Spider-Verse characters are all male, right? But it doesn't matter because you got leadership, agility, and then you've got also, you know, the hero tags and the human tags that also apply universally across the board for the Spider-Verse characters. Pretty nice. Her 6 skills just getting more hits, which is cool. Her leadership is now giving a 40% attack buff plus the debuff removal for total stuff, the cleanse. Her passive gives her damage reduction and lightning damage. She then also has chain hit, guaranteed dodge, and skill damage bonus damage, so that's pretty nice. She also doesn't have iframe ignore, which I find very odd. They seem very, very stingy to give characters iframe ignore, but she does have penetration. She has a 60% frenzy buff, which is pretty huge. She only has a 15% heal, which, okay, but she does have super armor, which is interesting. It does kind of look like PvP. She has a different frenzy buff that will stack with the other one for 40%. So if you stack both of her frenzy buffs up together, that is 100%. 100% attack. Yes, it's pretty huge, but no damage proc to pass over. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting. I do think some of these characters maybe could have used more healing and maybe an iframe ignore skill, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Then we get to Miles Morales' tier 4. This is the one I'm really excited for. Spider Camouflage. So what's up, Danger? This should be really nice. Sorry, it's a little cringe, but it's pretty cool. If he goes invisible, I will nut. It's going to be so sick. Hopefully they do something where his character model goes partially invisible. I understand making him fully invisible is hard for people to see where he is on the screen, and it's sort of, you know, it's anti the sort of visual clarity that we're asking for. I get that, but also it gets pretty cool, and it's called Spider Camouflage. Anyways, Spider Camouflage gives him invisibility, which is great for PvP, but also functions for PvE well. and then it gives his dodge rate a 30% bump, and then it gives him a 75% attack buff for 10 seconds. I like the duration. I think the attack buff is kind of lazy. I don't like it really, but it's okay because it's a little bit more, right? It's not just basic attack like so many other tier 4s recently that just get boring shit like that. I'm a little bit confused by the dodge rate. I mean, you're going to have his dodge rate capped anyways, so an extra 30% isn't very good. If it was 30% that went over the cap, that would be super interesting. Might be maybe a little bit too strong, but it should be exciting to see how strong his tier 4 is because it has a bit of flexibility for PvE and PvP. Then we have SpiderMan 2099's tier 3. Looks super cool. He basically walks back and then turns around and gives you that look, and then he charges you. And it's basically the same charge that he pulls on Miles when Miles starts running, right? It's the same sort of POV. Very, very cool. I really like it. And just a standard tier 3 skill as far as the abilities go, except one little note here: 200% damage proc. Yes, 200% damage proc. So this thing should hit like a truck, which is very exciting. Then we have Spot's Awakening and Scorpion's Awakening. They're getting an Awakening together, so Spot's not a tier 3. I was wrong about that. Apologies. Again, looks like a standard Awakening skill. Nothing to write home about too much. There is a 50% damage proc for Scorpion there. Removes debuffs, all the regular stuff there. And there is a tank. So we get another vehicle in the Marvel Future Fight realm. Okay, moving on, we have Kang World Boss Legend release. Moving on, we have Kang's World Boss Legend release and some improvements to World Boss Legend. Sadly, there are no improvements to the rewards of World Boss Legend and the sort of the scaling of the rewards from Null up to Jean and Kang. But hopefully we will see that eventually, and we'll see more of a delineation between the World Boss Legends, or at least a delineation when you climb levels so that players actually have a reason to climb higher. The unlocks for Kang are going to be clearing Ultron, Gore, and Phoenix 5 times each. Pretty straightforward. And then for Kang, you have a chance to get a mighty CTP of Greed. And then you have all the other drops the same, right? You have the guaranteed CCF, you have the Carbonadium drop, and you have the tier 3 drops and the Life Seed drops as well. You have the same copy-paste Conqueror level rewards for Kang going up to level 200. And you have the same copy-paste rewards and sort of abilities where you can unlock characters' potential if they're strikers and that sort of thing. I mean, stage 1 getting 31 Carbonadium. If 30 is the baseline for stage 1, then yeah, that's pretty nice. I suggest you unlock Kang and fight him, but we'll have to see if that is the baseline or not. We'll have to see how much better than Jean it is. Pretty nice. They've also added a small quality of life change to the Today's World boss where you can select multiple bosses when you're re-rolling. Yeah, I think they need to realize that it costs way too much gold, and they either need to reduce the gold amount by like 90%, or they need to add separate rolls, right? They need to add a roll for just the World Boss Ultimates and then roll for just the World Boss Legends. I understand that they use this as a gold sink, but it's really out of control sometimes, and you can easily spend 10, 20, 30 million gold with just a few rerolls, because it starts at 350,000 gold and it easily ramps to over 1 million gold per roll, which is just insane, right? And sometimes I've spent 10 million gold before I even see a single World Boss Legend, a single one. So as they add more World Boss Legends, obviously the odds of getting any of them goes up, but I really think they need to separate these and differentiate these, because it's like no one plays World Boss Ultimate anymore, right? It just doesn't happen anymore unless you're really weak. You have a really weak account. It just doesn't happen anymore, or unless you're just trying to unlock Null, right? So I'm hoping that they make more changes to this. Some people are still hoping that they add 5 runs for World Boss Ultimate and 5 runs for World Boss Legend and just separate them completely. That would be obviously the best possible scenario, but hey, this is better than nothing, but it's basically next to nothing. You'll be able to tell the total battle time in World Boss Legend when you clear the stage. They'll show you the remaining time now in the last phase of Null. So when Null comes down and then Thor stuns him and you have 30 seconds, that was just the 30 seconds that the players had realized through testing. Now it'll show you a 30-second sort of emergency timer. They've also adjusted the damage calculation and the hit range on some of Null's attacks. So it sounds like they're either buffing Null and making him harder, or they're making him weaker. My guess is they would make Null weaker because more new players are coming to the game and they want to make their transition from World Boss Ultimate to World Boss Legend as smooth as possible. So they want to sort of bridge the gap and make sure that jumping from Thanos to Null is not a huge bump in difficulty, so that players can get used to it and can start farming tier 4 materials faster, which is good. And then the activation timing of some patterns for Jean have been adjusted. That sounds like she's being nerfed. It'll be interesting to see what happens if she's being nerfed or buffed. But yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a difficulty shift for both Null and Jean Dark Phoenix. And then probably one of the things that I'm most excited about is Otherworld Battle improvements. So I was ragging on them for not changing Otherworld Battle. It seems like they are going to be improving it, which I'm really happy about. And they're going to be improving it in a big way. So they're going to be adding something called debuff effect and debuffed characters. And this is only going to apply in Vibranium or above. So don't worry if you're in lower ranks and you're trying to climb up, you're not going to have this effect. And that's a really good thing to note, because players in Iron level or whatever, Bronze, they don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want the only characters that they invested in, right, the Jeans or the Atoms or whatever, to be nerfed for these PvP game modes, to be debuffed. But for people in Vibranium, chances are if you're in Vibranium, you have a big roster. And if you don't, then you have a reason to build up your roster, right, and make it more wide. Anywho, there's going to be at least 3 heroes, up to 6 heroes each week. And it's going to rotate every week. So this is a really nice weekly debuff list. And I think the debuff list is going to work because, as you can read here, it says selected characters will be inflicted with the following effects. 5% of basic attack, defense, and HP, and 5% of instinct attack defense will be applied. So if I understand correctly, 95% of their stats will be negated. I don't think you can use Jean if she has 5% of her base HP and 95% is missing. I don't think you can use these characters. I think this is a kiss of death for these characters, and it's exactly what we need. It's not a ban, right? It's not a ban where you're forced to not use the character, but it's essentially a ban, right? And I think this works, right? And no hero will be debuffed in the first week, so we're going to have to wait for the next week to start seeing these applying. But hopefully, we will see some very meta lists of characters rotating. Hopefully, we'll see, of course, Jean sometimes. We'll see SpiderMan sometimes, Adam Warlock sometimes, Gore, Hulk, Carnage, right? We need to see all of these characters in some form, Thanos, Emma Frost. We need to see them debuffed. Hopefully, they will do 6 characters more often than they do 3. But I think this is a really, really good change for the game mode. You're absolutely going to see, if they ban, for example, if they debuff Gore and Jean, you're going to see some very different teams. If they ban, you know, Spider-Man and Jean and Adam, you're going to see some very, very different teams. So I'm really excited for that. That should be really, really nice. Then a couple of other quality of life things for Otherworld Battle. They're adding how much time left until you can repurchase the battlefield buffs. So that's nice. You can check your battle progress in the win record window. You will have a nice frame if you're in the top 100. They change the calculation time, whatever. They'll add special icons if you get to gold or above. So that's pretty nice. That's pretty interesting. Something to work, something to grind up towards that doesn't cost crystals to buy. Kind of a nice incentive, a nice goal to work towards. They added a tutorial, and then they added the remaining time until battlefield effects are changed for the next season, for it to be rolled over. And then they're making some improvements to the X of Swords. So again, some pretty nice quality of life improvements. They've added an auto select feature for dismantling swords. So if you have a bunch of +2 or +3 swords that you created that don't have the right colors or don't have matching colors, you can just boom auto dismantle them really quickly. Like you can auto sell or auto convert cards and Uru and stuff like that. Really nice stuff. And then my favorite one by far, because I've been neglecting this, is an auto enchant or a bulk enchant. So you can bulk enchant a bunch of swords that you have up to a particular level. This is really good. This saves so much time and so much clicking, so much finger fatigue. It's not even funny, because if you take a look here at my game, I've been neglecting it. I did it recently just because I was bored, but look at this. I have 300. And then if you look here, I have over 1,000 of the material, of the Rune of the Unknown. I have over 1,000 of it in the corner there because I just have not been enchanting my swords. So I'm going to absolutely take advantage of this and use it to like mass enchant swords up to +2. I might go up to +3. We'll see. and then I'll see, you know, how many of them hit triple blue, triple red, triple green, and then I'll go ahead and lock those. So this is very, very nice to basically speed up your sword creation and make it less frustrating. And then they've added an auto dismantle feature, which is nice when you use the bulk enchant, so you can do both at the same time, which is again pretty nice, pretty handy. They also added a sword of growth, so you can convert a sword that you rolled up to 6. If you don't like the colors, you can convert it into a sword of growth, and they will stack in the inventory, so you don't have to worry about your swords taking up one spot each. So this is an inventory buff. And then basically what you can do is you can use those swords of growth to either re-roll your other swords that you've already converted into one of the 6 swords, or you can use them for your agent level. If you guys didn't know, these swords are actually really good for agent level bonus. Like if you go here, and you add, let's say, an Uru, you can see it doesn't add very much to that yellow, right? If I add an ISO, it adds even less. You can see or if you had a fully awakened ISO, it's a little bit more, right? So all of these things have a particular amount that they add. But if you check out the sword, it adds quite a bit. You can see there, it adds quite a bit to the orange, and it's actually only worse. It's second only to the comic card. The comic card, I believe, adds more, but it's very, very close. It might add as much as a mythic comic card. So what they're basically allowing you to do, the sword of growth, you can basically see it as a sword booster, right? The same way that you can convert your cards into boosters, rather than having a bunch of mythic cards in your inventory, you can convert them into boosters and they'll stack. So again, rather than taking up 54 spots in my inventory with 54 mythic cards, I can just convert them all into boost comic cards and they'll stack. They're going to do the same thing for swords, where all of your 6-star swords, see all of these, see these two? If I didn't like them and I wanted to convert them, after the update, I'll be able to convert these into growth swords, and then they'll stack together in one slot. So this is a really, really nice feature, again, just to make the management much, much better. They also added a color assist mode, I guess, for people who are colorblind, which is really important because that sucks if you're colorblind. And then they made a couple of other changes. And then we move on to the new artifacts. So check this out. SpiderMan 2099's artifact increases his damage to alien and creature types. Now, normally, alien and creature types really only applies to ABX, ABL, and World Boss Legend. But as we know, speed hero males don't have a lot of value in World Boss Legend and ABX, ABL because of the restrictions, right? The restrictions just don't call on male speed heroes very often. It calls on female speed heroes often, but not male speed heroes. But what I was thinking was, isn't Adam Warlock a creature, right? Adam Warlock's side, right? His ally or whatever is creature, right? You can see it right here. He's a creature. Under blast, he's a creature. So this should be very interesting. SpiderMan 2099 is going to deal more damage to Adam. Speed type already counters blast type. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. It's a big maybe. It's a big question mark, but it's there. SpiderWoman is getting increased damage to elements, which is just lightning, element, not element, which is kind of lame. Her artifact basically is meaningless. Spot is getting ignoring non-boss enemy damage decrease, so they're just going full into PvP for Spot, which is nice. And then Scorpion gets increased attack and max HP, which is cool, but Scorpion is just not strong enough to be in the meta currently. Then we have the new battle pass with the new icons. We get Gamora breathing. We get Groot playing video games. We get the Spider-Verse Miles graffiti. We get 2099 looking menacing. And then we get Deadpool. A lot of people are going to speculate on this. Is Deadpool gearing up for maybe a new summer uniform to replace his shitty April Fool's uniform? We'll have to wait and see. And then they're adding this Jocasta thing where you can click it to view tips about the game. This is basically just to help new players. I think this is really, really good. The game needs as much of this as possible because the game is way too complicated. I'll review this at a later time to see how good it is and how helpful it is. They've also added a Show Shield Academy guide mission on or off, which is great because it's really annoying. Every time I log in, it tells me, hey, by the way, you have these Shield Academy missions. This shit pops up every time. I just don't give a shit, bro. I do not need the Shield Academy rewards. It does not matter to me. So I'm glad that you can turn that off now. And then a really bizarre feature, you can exclude the top 10 heroes as supporters when you're auto-repeating Multiverse Invasion. I guess this is happening to players who are trying to compete in Multiverse Invasion, but then they don't have a big roster, so their supporters are being filled with the rest of their characters. Then they have no one to play Multiverse Invasion. Very strange. I didn't think this was an issue for some players, but I guess it was, which if it's fixing a problem for players, it's a good thing. It took me a long time to figure out what this was for. I was very confused. And then you can invite all in Giant Boss Raid. Fantastic new quality of life stuff. Very, very good. There's gonna be more information on the character page where you can check, even more information about a character, which is good. And then they have this really cool one now where if it applies to a certain faction of characters, you can click it to see who it applies to and which one of them you own and which one of them you don't own. This is really, really nice. Really, really nice. Very, very helpful. A very nice visual aid to help players understand who is buffing whom. Very nice. Then, kind of a sneak buff, kind of a sneak change. They don't really make a lot of fanfare about this. They probably should hype it up more, but they're massively increasing the score cap for ABX and ABL. Massively. So ABX is moving from 12 million to 18 million, which is insane. But yeah, some like Magneto right now, I can hit like 15 million with Magneto, and it caps out at 12. So this really does push the limit, and this is going to create a lot more of a gap between tier 4s, because, Gamora hitting 12 million and Black Widow hitting 12 million before was the same. But now Black Widow stops at 12 million, Gamora keeps going. So there's a much bigger gap between the value of these characters. And then for Legend mode, it's going from 10 million to 15 million. This one's pretty nuts. I don't get above 10 million very often, and when I do, it's like 10.1 million, 10.2 million. So yeah, this one's going to be more interesting, I think, and this is really going to showcase players who have absolutely min-maxed and mastered their characters. But I think stuff like this is really good, right? The rewards in ABX and ABL are still very good, so I don't think they need a tune-up as far as that's concerned. But this allows players to really flex their skill, and this really pushes the competition to a whole new level. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll be covering that in videos as well, because I think it's important to focus on and showcase really who's the best. It was getting kind of stale with every new tier 4 being able to hit the cap of 12 million, especially for Extreme. So it should be very interesting now, because even among tier 4s, right? Iron Man, Star-Lord, Atom, they're not all built the same for ABX, even for ABX, right? It was just kind of an ABL thing only, but now we're going back to ABX as well. So that's pretty nice. And then a couple of other quality of life things. They added a combo tip guide for Rocket. Wow, that only took like a month, guys. Good job. And then we will no longer be damaged after some of the attack patterns of Dormammu end, which is nice. And then a couple of other random bug fixes that I didn't know were affecting things, like the 35% defense decrease of universal types in Otherworld Battle being displayed as 40%. But yeah, some of the best patch notes I've seen in a long time. I'm really excited for this update. I think there's a ton to get into and a ton to discover and explore and have fun with. Taking a break seems like a very far away, unexciting idea right now, and I'm all here for it. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this massive video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. I'll see you tonight, actually. Take care.